Welcome to the In the Group Chat podcast.
Bhav, welcome.
Let's do it.
Welcome to the show, man. How's it going? How are you?
I'm good.
Yeah?
But yeah, things are really good. New Year started really positively for me.
Awesome.
Yeah, I've got a few things that I want to do this year. Started working on them quite well. So just excited to see how things pan out.
Man, I'm happy. And do you know what? I've been an avid fan of your new page, which actually came out. Was it at the start of the lockdown?
Yeah. Well, firstly, thanks so much for saying that. I started recording maybe just before lockdown, but I think once things started shutting down, we were forced to stay inside, working from home, etc. It kind of just accelerated things there because it's just a small page, and I kind of had a target of doing maybe one video a month just to start putting out there. And then with the extra time on my hands, etc., I decided to I guess just do as much as I could. I started kicking things off by doing this 30-day music challenge that I saw people doing online.
I remember that actually. Yeah.
So it was I think that's around when it started. I think maybe February, March time.
Yeah.
And then that was good. So that basically forced me to record one video every single day and upload it, which was tough. It's the Instagram videos are pretty much a 1 minute clip, but behind that there's so much work that goes into it. So yeah, it was tough, but I learned a lot from that whole experience, and I think that was pretty much the main point of it as well. So
yeah, I love that. So so music's of course not the only thing you do. You're a busy man, right? What's going on in your day job? What do you do?
So I actually work in ad tech. I'm not gonna spend too much time going into it because, to be honest, I've been trying to explain this to my friends for the last 8 to 10 years, and still none of them understand that. But I basically work in advertising for an app company, basically helping them to monetize. I pretty much fell into it though. I started working off in a lot of music companies when I was fresh out of uni. Okay. And I guess just segued into that era, basically.
Okay, so you're a busy man, and actually maybe I should backtrack. Let me go to how we met, because we've known each other from afar for a very, very long time. And
yeah, I can't even put a date on it. I can't remember what year it was.
So I you know my friend and fellow DJ Donnie Brasco, and he had a roadshow called AFR, the Addictive Flavor Roadshow, and I was obviously one of the door players, and we were at a gig at West Ham Football Stadium. And
that was it. Yeah, I forgot it was that.
You were hired to, I think, play guitar in the entrance or something like that. And man, you were awesome. I remember watching you. You were sitting on a chair, and you were playing as they were walking in. And I was like, man, this guy's sick. And the reason why is because I think maybe 5 years before that, I actually bought an electric guitar, and I always envied people that could play. And I think it's such an awesome instrument. So I remember going, hey man, what's up? What's your Instagram? Let me follow you. And yeah.
No, Yeah, that was so long ago.
I'm
Yeah,
trying to think how far back. I must have been like 19,
it was
20 years old.
it was soon after I finished uni. I'm
Oh,
gonna
maybe a
say
little
maybe,
later then. Yeah, man. That's
yeah.
like that's a long way back, man. Shit.
It's a long way back. It was actually for one of my friends. So I was actually a guest at the wedding. She asked me to do that. So yeah, it was nice to do that for her. But yeah, I think I played like it was an entrance music because as they were walking in, it's like I
Yeah,
was there on
that's
stage.
exactly what it was. So, and we've obviously found ourselves in other parts of the world at the same time, but we've never actually like hooked up and met in these various places. I remember when I was in New York posting shit on my story and you were like, yo, I'm in New York. Man, and what were you doing
Yeah.
there anyway? Was it for work or personal?
No, that was personal. So I was just a friend and I have always wanted to look into New York, and then
Yeah.
we decided to just basically book tickets and just make it happen. So it's good. Like I love New York. I think that's one of the few places I've been where I thought I could definitely live here. It was like everything good about London, but just it's massively supersized. Don't know if you felt that as well.
Yeah, it's like London on steroids, but London is probably
Yeah.
sorry, New York is probably the only other country that I would happily go and live in. Sorry, other city that I would happily go and live in. Man, I loved it. I spent a month there, and I lived in Brooklyn for 4 weeks.
Oh, amazing.
And
That was definitely my favorite part of New York.
Yeah. That I loved Brooklyn. Brooklyn was like Shoreditch or Hackney Wick.
Yeah, for sure.
I remember being in New York, Manhattan, and paying for a round of drinks, and it's like $25 per cocktail. And in Brooklyn, it's like $30 for like a round of 6 drinks, and you're like, this is chilling. I love this.
Don't forget the tip. I missed that part when I first got there. I remember a few bartenders got pretty angry with me. And I was like, what's going on?
Yeah,
but
it's hard.
once I was okay, cool, yeah, no problem.
Yeah, and it's like, I remember buying a drink at the bar. They open the bottle, and I'm like, "Here's a $1 tip for opening my bottle. Thank you." It's weird. I think, obviously it's the norm there, but we in the UK don't tip for shit, man. Even if the service is good.
I think they price it in over here though as well, don't they? So it's just a different culture.
Added value tax.
But I will say that the service you get over there is like way better than anywhere else that I've ever been.
Do you think so?
Definitely like restaurants and bars and everything, they're super attentive, super friendly.
Yeah, I guess so. Because that makes sense. I mean, how many times have you waited in a bar in London, in a club, and just been waiting for like half an hour just to be served?
Yeah, for sure.
But it is also because a huge percentage of their income is actually from the tipping, right?
From the tips, yeah. I guess so. And I guess because they know that they're working extra hard to get it. So
yeah, exactly. So for those of you who don't know, Bhav, in addition to his ad tech life, he is an incredible musician and a fantastic guitarist. And man, I've been following like your page, Jam with Bhav, which I love. And do you know what? Some of the covers that you do, sometimes I'm like, shit, I've not heard that song in like 10 years. And I'm sitting there going on, let me go on iTunes quickly and find that song and listen to it repeatedly for like 10 hours non-stop. Man,
a lot of people have said that. Like, it will spark something. I think a lot of the songs I've picked, they'll have like a lot of nostalgia for people our age as well. So I think it kind of resonates with them quite well.
So here's something I've been thinking about for a while. I love, as a door player, I love music, but not just Indian music or Bhangra. More, I love any music in general, anything that makes me vibe. And I've always been somebody where music plays such a big part in my emotions, my state of mind. And if I'm feeling bad, I know I've got a playlist for that. Like if I'm feeling like, if I feel like I'm partying, I've got a playlist for that. And my question to you is, what place does music play in your life? Is it something you hold really close to you? Or is it something you just generally enjoy? Or is it more of a emotional tie to the music you play or music you listen to?
Yeah, I think it's all of the above. I mean, so many people like can say like music plays a massive part of their life, and I think I'm any different in that respect. I guess for me, I started learning the guitar at a very young age, and I've always kind of been exposed to music like that. Like my parents were always playing music, or like I think playing an instrument, it makes you kind of appreciate music on a different level compared to like if I didn't have that, just because like you might hear a song on the radio and think that's a great song, whereas like when you're trying to learn that song, you understand the work that went behind that track to try and create it, and then you start thinking what was going through their mind when they were making that. How did they make that sound so good with that? So yeah, but for me, I think as well, it's more of a bit of an escape for myself. Like a lot of people might meditate, a lot of people kind of go hard in the gym, or like they go running, etc. And like
smoke a pound of weed.
Trying to healthy. So sorry,
smoke a pound of weed or whatever they do.
There you go, exactly. So like, and everyone's got like their ways of like just dealing with things or escaping, etc. But for me, I guess whenever I'm stressed at work, or if I've had like, I don't know, just basically just life in general gets a bit tough, it's something that I can pick up, and then it just basically just takes me away from everything. Sometimes I'll pick it up with the intentions of playing for like 10 minutes, and then before I know it, like 3, 4, 5 literally hours will go by, and like the whole day is gone. But it's good, and it's also like it's productive. Like I enjoy like watching Netflix, I enjoy like playing PlayStation and FIFA and things like that. But I think this gives me something to do that's a bit more, just more productive, if that makes sense. It's something I want to get better at. It's something I want to keep trying to improve on. So yeah.
I mean, I love Netflix, and during this lockdown, Netflix has been a lifesaver. But playing, there's a big difference between watching Netflix for 5 hours and then playing, an instrument or being creative for 5 hours. The level of gratification that you get from, doing something productive, that feeling is just amazing, right? And
yeah,
I completely get the whole stress side of it, because when I was doing my A-levels and GCSEs, man, I think maybe that wasn't the peak of Doll for me, but that was, my passions for Doll was so high. And I remember going, do you know what? I'm really stressed out. I'm going to go bang the fuck out of my drum at home for like 25 minutes to a song and fully engross myself into this. And I don't know, did your parents ever, your neighbors ever complain when you were at home? Like, I used to have like people knocking around my house going, I've got a headache. Can you tell him to stop playing that drum, please? And can you imagine a Doll in a residential household environment?
Yeah, no, 100%. I can imagine. Luckily, the guitar isn't quite as loud as the Doll, so I was able to manage it a bit better. But definitely, like when I was back at my parents' place, there'd be like a 9 p.m. like cut off. That's it. But it's good now. I think when you've got your own place, and hopefully, like you'll find the same like with the Doll as well. But yeah.
Why the guitar? What made you want to pick up a guitar and play?
I'll be honest. So I actually started playing in primary school, and it was offered by, I think, a select group of people in terms of the class. And then I saw it as a way to cut class, to be honest. I wasn't massively into music at that time. I actually got into music like way later than a lot of my friends did. But
how old were you?
When I first played the guitar, so I think I was in like year 5 or year 6.
Okay.
So whatever age you are at that point. But I don't think I really got into music until late high school, I think. Maybe like mid high school, late high school. But yeah, it's it's weird thinking about it now. But yeah.
Do you know, when I bought my guitar, it's a really funny story actually, because I bought my guitar and I was really young, and I remember being, gosh, I don't know, this was maybe like year 8, year 9. How old are you when you were year 8, year 9? Like 14 years old? Something like that?
Like that, yeah.
I wouldn't even have a clue, but say around that age. And what actually made me buy the guitar was I watched School of Rock.
Right.
And you know that bit when he's in the class for the first time, and you know he doesn't want to be a supply teacher, Jack Black, and he's gone to the toilet and he hears classical music, and then he sees everybody playing all these instruments but playing impeccably, and he runs to his car. He gets a guitar, electric guitar, bass guitar, keyboard, a drum kit,
Yeah.
and he plays "Smoke on the Water," right? And that's the first thing I ever learned on my guitar. It's probably the first thing anybody ever learns on a guitar. And man, after that day, I was like, I want a guitar. So I remember my parents going, "The fuck you want a guitar for? Like, you know, what are you doing?"
What did you get? Did you get like an acoustic one or electric one?
Let me tell you. So first, I got an acoustic guitar, and then, do you know what? I kind of half-heartedly tried to learn from YouTube, like looking at videos and seeing how they play, and then, you know, I made a deal with my parents. I was like, "Oh, I've seen one in the Argos catalog." You know, back in the day when we picked up Argos catalogs and just looked for them constantly, just dreaming about all the shit that we wanted, right? And I remember like picking up the Argos catalog and seeing one, and being naive and young as I was, I didn't actually read the description properly. So I was like, "Oh, Mum, there's a guitar going for £99 from Argos," and we got it. Like, so the deal was, I put in like £20. You know, I save up £20 and they'll put in the rest. And it was, you know, just to teach me a lesson about money. And I went and bought the guitar, brought it home, and it was like a half-size guitar, and it was the smallest thing.
Yeah, I was going to say.
And like, I still have it, actually. I still have it. It's up in the loft, and it came with this like 10, is it amp? 10 watt amp? Would it be 10 watt? Yeah, 10 watt amp. And it was this tiny little amp. And I was just like, shit, I can't actually say this is the wrong size now because they're just going to have an absolute go at me. And I moaned about having a guitar for ages. So I sat there and I played this tiny little guitar, electric guitar. And yeah, it was, you know, I spent a lot of time on it and I learned like random songs. And I remember like learning the bass on it to Danny California, Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Yeah.
Because that's got such a great, you know, the bass in that is so great. And yeah, and then afterwards, and then I picked up Dawl, and then that my guitar has never seen, you know, the light of day ever. It's like up in the loft catching dust somewhere. I should actually donate to somebody.
So you never got like a full-size guitar then?
No, so I never ever got a full-size guitar.
I know.
I know, right? And in the end, I was just like, yeah, I can't really expect them to like, oops, I didn't read the description properly, my bad. Like, that wouldn't have gone down well. But yeah, that was kind of my early guitar, you know, experience, and I loved it. Like, you know, I wouldn't say we're a musical family, but my brother played violin and he played keyboard in school. So, have you ever picked up any other instrument? Like, you're great with acoustic guitar. You have an electric guitar. Have you ever ventured out?
Yeah, I actually started before guitar, I think. And then the same reason, again, they offered it at my primary school, like tabla lessons.
Oh, yeah?
So I did maybe a couple of years of that. And then I think once the guitar got picked up, that kind of took over.
Yeah.
I also played a lot of keys as well. But I think out of everything that I tried, the guitar is just the one that stuck. To be honest, if I could play any instrument, though, I'd say my favorite one is drums.
Really?
I would love
a drum kit?
Yeah, proper drum kit.
Man, we need to get you on the Dawl, man. You'd love it.
Yeah, I'd love. I've played the Dawl like a few times just to mess about with it. Yeah. I love that as well. There's so much energy from it. But yeah, it's just guitar's the one that stuck.
I think a lot of people underestimate the how shall I put this? They underestimate the ability to make Indian folk music and then rock and roll and bring it together, and what that creates is just magical music, because rock and roll is quite, you know, I wouldn't say quite intense, but it's quite an upbeat, you know, very rough sound.
Very raw.
Yeah, it's very raw. That's the right word. It's very raw. But when you listen to like Dawl, it's also a very raw sound.
Yeah, 100%.
And the first time I realized that you could combine Western music and classical is when the BBC Electric Proms, I saw a YouTube videos of the Kaiser Chiefs doing a rendition of, I think the song's called Angry Mob, I think. And the Doll Foundation come on stage and they play Doll alongside the Kaiser Chiefs, which is like, it's crazy. And all these white people are like, man, this is sick. Like,
it works.
It works. And that for me was the first time seeing, this is, and I've always said, man, like, I've always said I'd love to jam with you, literally like jam with Bhav.
No, 100%. I mean, like, I think we talked about that just before lockdown kicked in, or maybe around periods.
Because we were really getting into, we were starting to do a lot of covers and starting into getting studio time and recording these covers, and then the lockdown happened. So we need to get you back into it, man. We need to do this.
Yeah, we'll make it happen. I mean, hopefully, let's see. I mean, 2021, hopefully summertime.
Towards the end,
but,
yeah.
Let's see.
How has how has your lockdown been actually? Just going on a bit of a tangent. Have you been like just keeping yourself to yourself? Have you been trying to like contact an ex? Is what everybody seemed to do in the first lockdown.
What was that again?
Have you tried to get in touch with an ex? Because that's what everybody seemed to do in the first lockdown.
No, lockdown's actually been pretty good. I mean, at first, obviously, like you miss going out, you miss seeing your friends, etc. But to be honest, I think I tried to see it as a positive. Like on the plus side, we've got way more time. Like I've gained like 2 hours a day just from my commute that I don't get anymore.
For sure.
Saving like loads of money from not going to restaurants, etc. Learning how to cook a little bit more, etc. So, and as well, like massively, I think I wanted to play more last year. That was one of like my New Year's resolutions. I think from the year before that as well. But I think this has helped just give a bit more time to those things that you might have maybe neglected before.
For sure.
So not just on the music side, but just all aspects of life. But I think especially for people that are creative, whether it's an instrument or a hobby or like if you're into art, etc. Like I've seen a lot more people get creative and start like their own little projects as well over lockdown. So I think it depends on your perspective. I mean, obviously it's horrible what's going on in the world with the pandemic, etc. But you can try and turn some of these circumstances into a positive as well.
And you hit the nail on the head. It is perspective. Like so much of it is perspective. I was telling my mom this morning, telling my brother this morning how, we've been so fortunate. Like sometimes I'm like, when it's freezing outside, I'm so glad to be having a hot shower.
Yeah.
Like the little things, you take
little things,
granted.
100%.
I'm never ever going to complain about a line at the airport security ever again. Like, suck it up and just take it, man. I'm taking that for granted for sure. So, going back to music, how did you learn guitar? Like, who taught you?
So I'd say the first few years, like I said, in primary school, it was mainly like through my teachers over there. We get like the book for like the different grades or whatever it was. I didn't continue with that after a few years, but that kind of got me into it. But I'd say after that, I was mainly self-taught.
Yep.
Going into high school, and then like with like the internet, and you can pretty much learn anything you want from things like YouTube, etc. So it's good in that sense. I think I took some lessons at the end of high school, and then at that point, I think I could play like relatively well, but then I had like zero theory like knowledge. So between college and going to university, I also like didn't know what I wanted to study, etc. So I actually went to music school for a year. I don't know if I've told you that.
No, I didn't know that. Where was the music school?
So it was based in Acton. They were called Tech Music College, and my segment was called Guitar X. It was basically like a 1-year crash course into guitar, everything from like the recording process. You learn how to use like Logic and things like that, to like reading and like theory, but also like band practice, etc. It was exactly like School of Rock, basically.
Okay.
For like a whole year.
Without a crazy Jack Black.
Yeah, exactly. So so I did that for like a year, but outside of that, I'd say the majority of it was self-taught.
Do you know how I learnt Smoke in the Water?
Done.
My brother's friend of a friend taught me in a pub.
Yeah.
In
Nice.
East London. Yeah, he was a guitarist. I don't even know his name, but apparently he was somebody that did live performances. And
Can you do you think you still play it right now?
yeah, I could actually. My niece has got a acoustic guitar and we play it at home.
Awesome.
I don't know what other song what were the other songs that I learned? I can't even remember. I'm sure I've got a video somewhere of like me trying to play random songs. Nah, I'm gonna try and dig them out and I'll show you, and you can be disappointed.
Send it over.
Like, Sonny, this is shit. This is shit.
No. Do you know what? Like, I was thinking about this when you reached out a few weeks back, but I think we were talking about our influences and things like that. But even there's a lot of guitarists that I follow on Instagram who are just starting out, and I'll be honest, like they inspire me way more than some of the guys that have been playing for like 10, 20 years, just because like I can see their progress, how much energy they're putting into kind of their practice, etc. So from like month 1 to like month 3, you can see that, and it's like, oh, like I remember going through that, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And that it makes me want to pick things up as well.
Yeah,
so
that happens to me when I see some of the younger guys in Imperial, drummers, who are constantly working out their craft, religiously trying to perfect every beat, trying to perfect. We call them digits. They're usually the breaks between like an 8-bar, and man, they're constantly trying to be creative and innovative. And when I see that, I'm like, shit, I need to pick up my doll. I need to practice. I need to do this and that. So I completely get it. Like it's enthusiasm, passion, and dedication and consistency goes a long
fun,
way.
And fun. I think that's the most important thing, because I think what inspires me is when I see people that genuinely love what they're doing.
Yeah, 100%. Where it's no longer a chore and you're doing it. And you haven't been doing it for 20, 30 years. You're doing this just because for the pure, raw love of actually doing it. Yeah. I love that.
And it could be like in a really simple, like Adele song or something like that. Or like, it doesn't matter if it's that or if it's like a guy absolutely shredding it to like metal music, for example.
Yeah.
But as long as you can see them like just being so into it, I think that's what's most inspiring for people.
You touched on inspiration. Who has been your musical inspiration for, picking up a guitar? Is it these younger people that you're seeing, or have they been sort of people in the past that you've really looked up to?
I think growing up, obviously, like you'll listen to music, you'll have kind of like your favorite bands and artists and things like that.
Yep.
So I'd say like some of my favorite bands growing up, like Foo Fighters, Muse. We talked about Queens of the Stone Age.
Yep.
My favorite bands, Incubus, for example. So I think it also goes back to like what I was saying about when you play an instrument and you're trying to understand what was going through their mind when they created that, because as well, I was thinking I wouldn't be able to create music like that. How like what is it that they did that made them able to do those things?
Yeah.
Because I want to learn that as well. So yeah, I think in terms of my inspirations, it was people that I saw those qualities in, if that makes sense. Like they're making amazing music, I want to be able to do the same sorts of things. But I think the one thing that they all had in common was that they drew influence from so many different areas, if that makes sense. So it could be like a metal guitarist, but he would be massively influenced by like Madonna or like jazz music or funk music or like James, etc. It's not all like just metal music that person was listening to growing up. So I think that's true for like the majority of the artists that I really enjoy listening to. So
now you mentioned Incubus, so I thought we should maybe check this out. sounds awesome.
Yeah, this was an awesome track.
I might have to mute the vocals out because Spotify might get angry at me. But yeah, man, the quality of the stuff you do is amazing. And, just by looking at your face, you can see you're so into it. And how intuitive is it? Like, are you just feeling the strings? Like, because when you first start playing, there's obviously a conscious effort to get things right. Are you at a stage now where you're just like, I know where my hand is, what chords I need to play? It's almost just second nature to you?
I don't know about second nature. I think it depends as well on the song, but yeah, to most things I could probably listen to it and I've got a good enough feel to understand like what the chord progression is going to sound like or what that looks like as a structure, and then I can kind of work my way around it. But again, some songs are easier to do that with compared to others. And I think as well, I guess that's definitely something that I wanted. That was definitely part of my my mindset when I started the page. Was like I ultimately want to get better. I want to keep improving, and like having that. So that 30-day music challenge, it kind of forced me to learn songs that were out of my comfort zone. So the challenge was like play a song from the 1980s, or play a song with a color in it, or play a song that does this, or whatever it was. So it wasn't just like me picking my favorite songs. I had to like, it forced me to kind of go into those categories. So so yeah, I think a lot of things, to answer your question, so a lot of things I can play it by ear, but at the same time there's definitely areas I need to improve on, and I guess that's what I want to try and keep doing.
And I've certainly given you a couple of covers to play, and you've turned them around really quickly. What's the process of learning? Are you like, okay, someone's giving you a request, are you sitting there YouTubing chords, or YouTubing, or can you read music, or are you just listening from, are you just playing or learning from listening, if that makes sense?
Yeah, it's a bit of everything really. Like I think you gave me the request for Superman, which is actually a really cool
I'm
one
about to
do.
play it. I'm about to play it. It's one of, because that the chords on that is one of my favorites. I think not just of an Eminem song, but of any song. And I remember being at uni, like going, singing it constantly in school, and my friends are like, "Will you shut the fuck up about that song?" But it is one of my favorites. Sorry, you were saying, I was getting engrossed in your playing. I mean, I really sound like I'm dick riding here, but I'm not. This guy's fucking awesome.
I think that's like the most fun thing about it is, I mean, that's the challenge, right? Like when you've got a song that doesn't really have a guitar part, but like you can hear all those individual parts that I've played there. So you've got like the main bass line, you've got like the chords, and you've got the bit where that you said was like that you liked. But that's more of like that's actually, I'm playing it with a bit of a funk rhythm, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's taking those parts individually and then like thinking, okay, how does that work with that? How does that work with that? And then bringing those pieces together, and then seeing what it makes. I mean, some songs work better than others. But I think when you take a song that people aren't expecting, or it's not an obvious choice, and then you can create something out of it, it's my own twist, if that makes sense as well.
No,
like,
that makes total sense.
if like another guitarist was to try and do the same thing, it might sound amazing, etc., but it'll be like their twist on it.
Yeah,
So,
of course.
Yeah.
Man, do you know what? I love it. I've got a couple more which I'll play throughout the rest of this episode. You know, some of the ones that you said were your favorites, but I want to talk music in general. So, what's the first ever album that you bought or illegally streamed from LimeWire back in the day?
Can't remember back to LimeWire days, but
disclaimer.
It was a
disclaimer.
Guilty...
Yeah, FBI, if you listen to this, like, fuck off.
It was a guilty pleasure for my first album. It was actually Born to Do It by Craig David.
Okay, was that the album with 7 Days and all of those songs?
Yeah, it's like the brown cover.
Do you know what? But that is such a good song. Like, I can't hate you for that. If you said something like, I bought the Spice Girls, I would have been a bit like, should we just end this interview right now? But
this wasn't good.
You know, Craig David is commendable. I'm not mad at that. I'm not mad at all. You know,
yeah,
Craig David is British icon.
It was a good album, but it was just looking back. It's just, when I look back, wow, that was my first album that I ever bought.
I'm trying to think what mine was. I remember buying a couple of Bhangra albums, especially True School comes to mind. But I think the first album I properly listened to and properly bought was probably Eminem's the Marshall Mathers LP with like
Nice.
My Name Is, and
Yeah.
sorry, not My Name Is, The Way I Am, and you know, all these absolute classic like Under the Influence, which you did a cover of. But I think growing up, I went through this teenage stage of I was such a big rock and roll fan. Like, I loved my Green Days. I loved Red Hot Chili Peppers, Muse.
How did you get into it?
I don't really know. I kind of I can't remember. I kind of just really, you know, I think 90s rock and roll was almost like the golden era for me of like amazing music. And then I kind of transitioned to like this huge hip hop rap head where I really got into like Dr. Dre, and I got into, I didn't really get into Tupac and Biggie much because that kind of wasn't my era. But like Eminem, LL Cool J, these are the people that, you know, opened my world to rap and hip hop. And, you know, I always knew songs like Sean Paul, Breathe. You know, from a young age, I always remember that song and that blue BMW, sorry, not BMW, the really bright Mercedes in the music video. You know, I always remember these things. And I remember being young and my brother playing Stan. Right. And remember, I bought the Marshall Mathers LP years after it came out. Like, when it first came out, I was way too young. But I remember my brother playing Stan, and I never really understood it. And then years later, I listened back to all these incredible songs from the early 2000s.
You appreciate it more, right?
You appreciate them more, and they made so much more sense to me. Man, like, you know, like some of the I can't even remember all the songs that I used to listen to and I love, but you know, I feel like I want to go back into my old laptop, old hard drive, and just find all of these songs, which I just loved. You know, I would just sit there and just listen to music all day long. It's echoing the sentiment of what you had said earlier, where, you know, some people watch Netflix, some people do this, but like music just takes you into another world. And music for me has definitely elevated my mood at a time when it's not been as positive as it could be.
For sure. So what age were you when you started playing Dole?
So I actually was quite late. I started playing when I was 15 because I was forced to do some talent show in Punjabi school. And they were like, well, either you can do like an acting role or you can play Dole. And I was like, yeah, I'll play Dole. Definitely.
Right.
And then luckily my two friends, Pav Ture and Manvir Asi, I used to go to Punjabi school with Manvir, and he was like, I'll teach you. And that turned out to be the Friday Dollar Academy class. And he used to run that class. So yeah, I kind of learned quite late in life, but I always had ability to catch a rhythm, and I could always play a beat from a really young age.
Wicked.
But yeah, and then I found Dawl, and Dawl was like, hey, this is fun, it's entertaining, I get to do some cool shit, meet people, and get to make some money from it. Like, what's wrong with that,
So did you used to kind of jam with Western music as well? So like, for example, like Eminem, Dr. Dre type stuff as well, or did you keep it?
Not till later on. Early on, it was very much like Bhangra, 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 Bhangra.
Right.
But as I started to broaden my horizons, we started to play to dubstep. Funky house was a big one because funky house had that rhythm that went really well with like Jarl. And then what else? Drum and bass was a big thing to mix with Dawl. And then you started looking at like Still Dre on a Dawl beat or Next Episode. There are a lot of producers and DJs that mixed these songs and created these remixes, and you would play along to them. So now it's like, what is the thing we play with most? It's probably hip hop and R&B, probably R&B more than anything.
Okay.
Nice. Because our Imperial set has a lot of hip hop, has a lot of like gigs. It has gigs in it. It has who else? Like Tiger. It has some absolute crackers in there. But yeah. When it comes to like going back to the question, the first albums, like I think, the era of music we lived in for me was the best. However, looking back, I'm a huge fan of the 60s. I'm a huge fan of Etta James, Aretha Franklin, the Beatles, like Can't Buy Me Love. Or Can't Buy You Love, what is it? Is it Can't Buy Me Love? Yeah, it's Can't Buy Me Love. These are just amazing songs. Or Twist and Shout, These are just classics.
I think for me, I think a lot of people, like, I only started appreciating that sort of music in my as I got older, if that makes sense. Like my mum used to play stuff like that. And then a lot of the times I'd knock it when I was younger. I remember she played like Queen and like Bohemian Rhapsody and things. And I'd be like, what are you listening to? And then it's like, wow, that was like amazing. But
do you know how many people, jump on the Bohemian Rhapsody bandwagon because of the movie?
What do you mean by that?
Like,
as in they started liking it because
they started liking it because of the movie. Before people were like, who the fuck are Queen? But now, like, oh, Queen, yeah, I can fuck with that, And I'm not saying I'm not one of them. I'm definitely one of them, So I'm not hating. I'm part of it, I'm definitely one of them. I didn't really, Queen wasn't really on my radar until Bohemian Rhapsody came out, which also is okay because, you had something expose you to it. So who are you loving right now? If you were to open up your phone and went to your most recently played, who would be the top 3 artists on your phone, or who do you love right now?
So I'll be honest, like normally my music time is my commute, and there's been less of that now, obviously. But I still listen to a lot of music when I'm just home cooking or like doing my work, etc. But it's less. I guess I definitely say I've just been discovering less new stuff and just kind of listening to a lot of my back catalogue during lockdown.
Yeah.
In terms of stuff that comes to mind right now, like I've definitely been listening to a lot more of my old school indie stuff, like the Kooks, Block Party, Arctic Monkeys type stuff.
How did I not even mention Arctic Monkeys? Do I Wanna is like the greatest, and so is Are You Mine.
Are You Mine? Yeah, I actually love their first few albums. The next stuff was really good as well.
Yeah.
Did you know the guy from I can't remember which album it was, but the guy from Josh Homme from Queens of the Stone Age?
Yeah.
He actually produced
the lead singer.
Produce one of their. Yeah. So like they kind of like got mature, if that makes sense. In their,
so he produced what?
one of their albums. I can't remember which one it was. It might. I
That's
think it was the
awesome.
last one, maybe like the one before that. But
You know, it's
but
crazy.
yeah,
It's crazy to think like the Queens of the Stone Age, the Red Hot Chili Peppers, that era of 90s music. They're like in their 50s now. You know, it's
yeah, and they're
mad.
still touring, and
And
they're
they're
like
still
selling out
touring, and they
stadiums.
still have that level of energy, which is incredible. I loved in Kasabian. I also love Kasabian.
Mm.
You know, some of these bands, like I think British rock and roll is awesome. And I think, I know America is big with the rock and roll, but British rock and roll is awesome. You know, you were talking about going back and playing some of the oldies, and I thought we cannot. There's no way I can't do this episode and not play this. This is such a feel-good song, especially for a Friday, where we're both off work.
Yeah, I think this was probably definitely one of the most fun that I had recording.
And your eyes are closed. You're not even looking down at your guitar. And you're using a step pedal, aren't you?
Can't say that again?
Are you using a step pedal? Or foot pedal?
Like a loop pedal.
Yeah. Is that what you're
yeah.
using? Yeah. That's what Ed Sheeran uses, right? When he does his
he
live
does it
kind
really
of performances.
Well. Yeah. I actually, I think the majority of the tracks that I've done actually use the loop pedal. But yeah, again, that's the cool thing about being able to like layer the tracks over each other and then make that fuller sound. So yeah.
And that's crazy being able to do that live. You know.
Yeah, it takes a lot of practice because you can imagine if you get like the first loop, to say there's like 3 or 4 different layers you're putting on and one of them goes wrong live.
Yeah.
Like it's pretty much screwed up the entire thing, where you got to be able to like maneuver the pedals well enough to be able to kind of go back and correct it, etc. But yeah,
it's awesome, man.
It's kind of like learning. It's like kind of like learning a different instrument aside from the guitar, just like being able to control your pedals.
I bet. So now you can be as open or as personal as you like with this, or we can always edit it out afterwards. But how has music and you picking up a guitar, have your parents been supportive of it throughout you growing up, or have they been don't do music? That was my Indian accent. Not the best one. I think we should take that one out, but yeah.
No. I think I've been quite fortunate. For sure, there was that element of there was definitely that element of some concern when I said I wanted to go down that route.
Okay.
Like I said, like I finished college and then said I wanted to go to music school. So like it was quite a big one for them to take. But
yeah,
I was quite fortunate in that they definitely had the mindset of they didn't want to restrict me, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Like that they had concerns into like, okay, so what are you going to do with that? As if you do like a medicine degree or like a maths degree, like they can see the path of where that's going to lead, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Whereas music, it was like you're going to be a bum, basically.
Yeah.
Because and not because like that's what all musicians end up being, just because it's a different world for them. They weren't really familiar with. They don't really have friends who are musicians, or like they don't know anyone that's taken that path away with that lead, etc. So yeah, your original question, how was it? What was the original question?
So were they supportive? Were they encouraging, or were they kind of like let you do your thing, or did they try to actively, deter you from going down that path?
No, so they were super supportive during like primary school, high school, and then buying my guitar. Like, I think I got my first set of pedals when I was like 16. So they were super supportive at that point, and then they continued to be. I think it was more so when I said I wanted to do this as a career path, that it was a bit more like, okay, this is a bit more than a side hobby now. This is like that's a serious step that you're taking. But I think it was kind of like, okay, if he doesn't get to do this, he's always going to look back and think like, oh, I wish I did that and have regrets, etc. So I think they were quite mindful of that. So fortunately, I was able to pursue it.
That's awesome, because there are a lot of people out there. Yeah, there are a lot of people out there that, you know, they their parents really, really do deter them and trying to go and try. You know, I'm completely convinced that it is out of love and just ensuring their kids are stable and are set up for life. But you know, I think there is a side of it where, you know, doing what you love and doing, you know, exploring your passions or trying to figure out what your passions are is such an important part of life, you know.
For sure.
Instead of working all day. And I think it's such a great release, like working and then having this awesome thing you have on the side, you know. So, random question. Now, I know your parents have been amazing, so let's not disregard how awesome they've been. However, if you could have any artist or anyone who you may admire be your mum or dad, and, you know, imagine them bringing you up, who would it be? You can take
mum and dad.
You can take the time to think about it, because this is a random fucking question.
Let's make it more maybe like a cool uncle or something like that.
Okay, fine. A cool uncle, who's someone in your life who'd like, you know, for them to help nurture your upbringing.
The first person that came to my head when you said that was Dave Grohl, for sure. Like,
Dave Grohl, okay.
Yeah, from the Foo Fighters. I think he's just like the coolest guy in rock and roll. Like everything that he does is just amazing. Like the music that he does.
Yeah.
You see him in interviews. He's super. He's just super energetic. He can like he's just a really feel good guy. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I get
definitely
that.
knows stuff. He's someone that's like worked on his craft from like being nothing to being like one of the world's most famous musicians in the world right now and most talented. Like he started off as the drummer. I think he was in like loads of bands, obviously, like growing up. But then I think Nirvana was probably his big break.
Okay.
And then obviously what happened with Kurt Cobain happened, and he decided to start Foo Fighters.
Yeah.
So yeah, Dave Grohl would probably be my answer to that one.
Amazing. I think mine's got to be Zane Lowe, because I just love him. I love his hats.
Okay.
I love the hats he wears and his big ass glasses. But he's interviewed some amazing people. Like he's amazing people. Yeah, he has such, you know, from being like this guy, I think, is he from New Zealand or Australia? I'm not sure which one he's actually from, but from being like from this distant country, right? Where, you know, I remember watching an interview where he was like, yeah, when I used to listen to like albums and they used to come out on cassette and CD, I had to wait weeks after the release date because they wouldn't arrive in, you know, Australia and New Zealand for weeks after the release date, or magazines or whatever. But man, he's had an awesome career. I really admire him, and the way he kind of interviews, he's awesome. I do love that. Man, so, you know, you touched a little bit on music as a career, and, you know, what is your ambition with music? What do you want to achieve in your life with music?
Like, that's an interesting question. At the moment, I just enjoy playing it more so for myself, and I think I've been doing that for the past however many years, and I'm actually really content with that at the moment. Like, I think I definitely, being at music school, and then I was part of a bunch of different bands, and then I did a lot of live shows, and I've kind of I did that quite a lot. So it's not in my system where like, oh, like I wish I could go back and do that. I wish I could go back and do this, because I feel I've experienced quite a lot of that side before. So rather than kind of like not doing it, regretting it, and going back, I've kind of like experienced it. I understand a bit more about what it's about, and I learned I don't need to have it as my full-time thing to be able to still enjoy it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I get that.
So
for sure.
Because as amazing as it is, and as much as I enjoy it, there's definitely the side of it which is less pretty, shall we say. Like, I know musicians who are amazingly talented, like super, like just have worked on their craft their whole life. They've toured the world with different bands as session musicians and some of their own stuff as well. And it literally has been for them like sex, drugs, and rock and roll, and it's been amazing.
Yeah.
But then they might finish a tour and then find it difficult to get work for 6 months, and then when you're living paycheck to paycheck, it's difficult to then pay the mortgage and then pay like for your car and then pay for this. So
yeah, I get that.
I kind of and as well, like as a session musician, you're kind of in a situation where you've got to play a lot of other people's music, if that makes sense. So it's not necessarily what you want to play, and you're doing it more because you have to, because it's your job, not because it's what you really, really want to play. And it takes away from like the enjoyment a little bit. I found that anyway, not in all circumstances, but definitely some.
It is hard to survive as a musician, isn't it? It is, because you just don't know where the next paycheck is, and it's hard. It's hard, you know, if you make it, the rewards are amazing. Of, you know, you working with, you being part of a recording studio, and it's amazing, but it is really hard to survive.
But that's not to say you shouldn't do it. I think everyone's different. Me, myself, personally, like I said, I found that in between where I realized I can still really enjoy this side of things, but it doesn't have to be part of my day job. Whereas
I get that.
If you find that you're someone that really wants to pursue that and you're not happy unless you do that, then by all means, you should definitely continue. I think everyone's different at the end of the day.
I think what I'm about to play now is another cover of yours, but it's perfectly timed. Probably one of my favorite. You got to survive in the music business. You need to. Oh, this is so majestic. Have you ever seen a movie called Soul Plane?
What's it called?
Soul Plane.
No, I haven't seen it.
Oh man, there's an awesome bit where this is the airline safety video. I'm a survivor, and it ends up with if we land in water, we're all fucked anyway. Great movie. This is one of my favorite covers of yours. It's just so majestic and such a classic song. It's awesome.
I really like this one because it was one of those ones where I had it as an idea, and I thought like I didn't know what the end product would be, but like just from like fiddling around with it, seeing what the different parts were, and then trying to layer it over the top of each other.
Yeah.
And then it sounded quite cool at the end of it. Yeah,
it sounds awesome. Now, you know, you touched a little bit on, you know, music is difficult. It can be a difficult avenue, but you know, you don't want to discourage. You just said yourself, you know, you wouldn't discourage anybody going into it. What advice would you give someone who's up and coming in in music? You know, maybe they're exploring the avenue of doing this full time. Maybe they're not. But you know, what advice would you give in the shoes that you're in?
I mean, first and foremost, I'd say start. There's a lot of people that say like, "Oh, I wish I played piano. I wish I played this. I wish I played that." Like, there's nothing stopping you, right? It doesn't matter if you're 5 years old, or 25 years old, or 55. Just start, and then just see where it takes you. If it's something that you find you get out of your system, you like it, and also you've kind of like been at it for a few months and figured this isn't for me, then that's fine. And I guess you've had that.
Yeah.
Whereas you're never really going to know how much you want it, or how much you want it until you begin that process. And then if you do find that you catch the bug, and it's like, I think the more you start playing and the better you get, the more addictive it becomes. And then naturally from there, you'll have like a snowball effect. And then see where it takes you. But I think, yeah, first and foremost, just start, I guess.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. No, that is awesome. I think it is a hard avenue, but I think the worst thing is having a sense of regret. Like, just do it. What have you got to
Yeah,
lose? Just to try. And
exactly.
there are, sometimes musical instruments can be expensive, but you might be able to find a local music school, or you may know someone who's selling one quite cheaply. You may be able to borrow one, but I would say just give it a go, because I have loved playing Dor. Like, it's probably been one of the best things I've ever done. Performing in front of a crowd has built my confidence. All my friends right now are Dor players or ex-Dor players. And just doing stuff with your mates and doing stuff you genuinely enjoy on the weekends is a best feeling ever. And I don't regret it a single bit. For sure.
For sure. And as well, like you've probably got it as well when if you're jamming with your band and then like something clicks and then someone else adds something else to that and you bring an idea to the table and then what started off at the beginning of the jam session was like, hey, let's just try this, and then like literally half an hour later you've built this entire song
Yeah.
that just didn't exist before. And I think, like, for me, that's just the best feeling that you can get from playing an instrument.
Have you ever produced any of your own music? Like, have you written a song of your own?
Yeah, I actually used to do a lot more of that when I was younger. Definitely more towards music school, and maybe like the years after that, maybe around uni time as well. Unfortunately, I didn't back it up to the cloud. A lot of it was stored on
Oh
like this
no,
hard
man! I was
disk.
gonna say, can we hear some?
Yeah, no, unfortunately. So, I mean, I've still got a lot of it up here. I need to recreate it. It's on my to-do list, but yeah, that's definitely something that I want to do more of this year as well. Like I've been doing a lot of covers, but I want to start producing some of my own stuff. And as well, I'm learning a lot more about recording techniques and just the different equipment that you need, etc. So I think that's hopefully something that I can do more this year.
Man, I really hope. Like, I know some. I don't know if you've ever ventured into sort of the Indian music or the Bhangra or the Asian music scene or urban music. There are some artists out there that I'd love for you to work with. I'm a huge fan of Rackstar, and it'd be awesome to see you, team up and jam with Rackstar. He's one of my
For sure.
favorite rappers, and the way he kind of mixes Punjabi and English and makes it rhyme is just incredible. It's a great talent. But
Yeah, I've heard a lot of Rexar stuff. Actually, he's awesome. Actually, do you know what? Some of the first, not first, but I think after uni, I can't remember what year it was. Do you know who Menace is?
yeah, I do. Yeah, I did a gig with him actually, because
Yeah.
he used to play. A guy called
No
Taz. Taz used to produce his music, well, not produce his music, but produce some of his music. And we did like Birmingham Mela together.
Right. So I actually did a couple of shows with him back during like that era. So
Awesome.
like through there, I met a few of the guys. I've actually done a few things with Kaz as well. I think you follow Kaz Kumar.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
actually,
so
I've seen some of that stuff. I have seen some of that stuff. I think I've seen some of
Yeah,
that
I
stuff
think
on Instagram.
maybe I think she must have posted it, but she had a single Superwoman that came out.
Yes.
Can't remember what
Yeah.
it was,
I
but we did that
remember.
live on like Nahal's show on BBC, and like we did a few things there. But yeah, I definitely say the Bhangra scene and like the Asian music scene isn't normally, it's not typically what I listen to, but I've definitely been around a lot of that during some of the stuff I've been playing as well.
Man, that's awesome. Bhav, I think it's time to wrap this up. Bhav, it's been an absolute pleasure, and I've wanted to speak to you for a very, very long time. I'm a huge fan of what you do, and I really, really genuinely hope you keep continuing, even if it's as just a side thing. You're such a talented guitarist, and you're an absolute great guy all round. So I want to say thank you for joining me on the group chat. It's been great. And for anybody listening, go follow Jam with Bhav. Like, spam him with your requests. Just spam him. Keep him busy for a couple of months. It's awesome hearing you play. And Bhav, there's nothing to say, but thank you for joining the In the Group Chat podcast with Sunny Singh.
Cheers, man. Thanks for setting this up. I've enjoyed it.
My pleasure. I'm going to let this play out. Awesome Miguel cover by Bhav. How was that?